This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be talking hearing with audiologist Dr. Ted Venom from Next Gen Hearing and Mainland Hearing Centers across British Columbia. Ted, just before we talk about us notorious foot-dragging Canadian hearing people, tell us a little bit about Next Gen and Mainland Hearing. I mean, Mainland seems to be fairly self-explanatory for those of us who live here in the lower mainland of British Columbia. That would be a group of hearing centers in the greater Vancouver area. So where do we find Next Gen Hearing Centers?
On the island, man.
Oh.
Next Gen is on the island.
Okay.
And it's also in the interior.
Okay.
It kind of doesn't make sense, but it's true. So,
and these are two divisions of the same company that sooner or later down the road will become one.
Yep.
And so it's Next Gen and Mainland. And Next Gen, by the way, if you want to check them out online, both operations have terrific websites. Next Gen is spelled NEXGEN. Hearing.com.
No T.
That's right, exactly, right. And Mainland Hearing, of course, is mainlandhearing.com. Have a look at the websites, and you can see all of the locations from the Okanagan to Vancouver Island to, of course, all around Metro Vancouver.
And they plan to become one.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we'll hopefully be around sitting here on the sidelines when that happens. May even have a merger party.
There you go.
That's a great excuse. Now, tell us, Dr. Ted, this rather disturbing stat that you have brought forward in previous conversations on this program, dealing with us foot-dragging Canadians. Not only are we polite, we're really slow when it comes to remedy for our hearing.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon well known, well documented, and well researched. But basically, you don't need a weatherman to tell which way the wind blows. I've heard Dylan say that before. People believe what they see.
Right.
You can see blindness because you see the white cane. You see with your eyes. And we believe so. Blindness gets a big shrift in our society.
Excuse me.
And hearing doesn't. Because blindness, glasses, people talk about farsightedness, nearsightedness. People all know basically, they've heard these terms. Contact lenses, soft, hard, bifocals. But you start bandying about terms in hearing. Sensory neural loss, conductive hearing loss, noise-induced hearing loss, and otitis media and presbycusis, and people look at what? And it's because, and hearing also, there's a different aspect, not just because we only believe what we see, but hearing loss is associated with communication, and communication difficulties can mask as senility.
Right. Now, I'm glad you got to that, because I have a story to tell you that our good friend Paul Soretta shared with me just about an hour ago before you got here. This concerns a friend of ours, a well-known Vancouver broadcaster who's getting on in years, a wonderful, wonderful man, much loved by radio listeners, not only here in Vancouver, but right across BC. His hearing is all but gone. Not too surprising for a person in this business.
Unfortunate,
I'm amazed constantly that I'm able to hear after all my years. But nonetheless, this fellow's hearing is just about completely shot.
Oh, boy.
Now, he's still a very gregarious, outgoing individual, but because he doesn't hear well, he doesn't like to go out much anymore because he finds it embarrassing. He won't. He won't have his hearing tested. He won't put in hearing aids because he's too proud. So here he is. Now this is what I wanted to get to with you, because this is Boomer Life, friends. And as your hearing begins to diminish, to deteriorate, you begin to disconnect from your world.
It's like you're embarrassed, as you said, about getting the wrong punchline to a joke.
Right.
You can't tell whether they said dishes or fishes. You're using your eyes to compensate. You're reading lips.
Right.
You're doing all these things using contextual cues to find out what they must have said. So you're always playing catch up.
That's right.
And finally, you don't feel like stumbling anymore. It's too much work.
Right.
And you say, you know what, you guys go on out and have a good time.
I'll
stay back and read a book.
I'll catch up to you next time.
That's I think, the unsung sadness of hearing loss.
Well, and that's a part that we don't think about. And this is why I'm astonished Dr. Ted, that we take 7 bloody years to figure out that maybe because our hearing is going, we should see a professional and have some, I don't know, technical adjustments done.
Well, you know,
it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's pretty fast.
Yeah.
They do great work. It's 2014, for crying out loud. The technology is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
And, you know, you sit back, and I know this gentleman quite well. And I am so, I just feel, I'm quite broken up. Paul,
Yeah.
I didn't know this until Paul told me a couple of hours ago. And that's so sad.
It's quite a stigma
because
attached
here's
to
a guy that, you know, if I said his name, you'd know. Really, that guy?
Yeah.
But he's all alone.
Yeah.
And he won't go for a hearing test.
Maybe you should take him.
Well, you know, Paul and I are actually, we're going to do something here. We're going to gang up on him, and because we had a call from his lady, and you know, she's just beside herself because here's a fellow that, you know, is so outgoing and such a personality, and he's just withdrawing. He's becoming a shell of his former self, and it's all friends. Because he can't hear well anymore. You know, he's going away before her very eyes, and she's going nuts.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's free. It's just, you find out information.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you know, what have you got to lose by getting a hearing test? Well, maybe you find out what you didn't want to find out.
Well, you know, I had a hearing test, and I'm delighted that I had it. You know, I was, I guess, a little lucky in that, you know, I have sort of a predictable amount of hearing loss, but for a guy my age, it's pretty normal, and I don't, at this point, need any hearing aid assistance. But I also now have a benchmark.
Exactly.
So when I go next time, they'll go, oh, well, since we saw you last 12 to 18 months ago, here's what's happened to your ears.
And that's what you want to find out.
Right.
And information is power. It enables you to make your own decisions about what you want to do.
Right.
But at least, I would love it if you guys could get your friend to at least find out what's going on. And it's just information that way. But people have a stigma as well about hearing aids. They think they're big, ugly, beige things. And as you said,
sticking out of your ear like a hubcap. Oh, look at the guy with the hearing aid. You can see him 3 blocks down the street. Well, that's just not the case anymore. No, that's ancient history.
It is. They're digital. Just like all kinds of technology today, they're tiny. I could pull the old thing like the palm olive dishwashing liquid. You're alive. You're soaking in it.
You're soaking
I could be wearing hearing aids, and you wouldn't even know.
Well, I got to tell you, when I had my hearing test over at Mainland Hearing and the Metrotown location, Dr. Herman Lee was my guy, and he was absolutely terrific, real pro, very calm guy. Walked me through the whole thing. Did the test, discussed my results with me, and then at the very end of this very quiet, this very gentlemanly conversation, he shows me. He absolutely blew me away. He wears hearing aids. Yeah. I had no idea. And I've been sitting there. Ted and I are sitting about 2 feet apart from each other here at the desk, friends. And I was sitting about that distance from Dr. Lee for 45 minutes, and I hadn't a clue he was wearing hearing aids.
So I think it's like a 3-pronged thing. You've got your invisible disability is what hearing loss is, and so it gets swept under the rug. It masks for other things. People think the child isn't listening,
right? Or
people think grandpa's just kind of beginning to lose his marbles,
right?
And the other thing is, you know, there's a stigma about hearing aids. You know, people put off, and there's that loneliness. There's that communication, that withdrawal, and people don't like to admit it. It's a sign of, hey, you know, I'm getting on, and well, you know, and they usually are dragged in by a significant other. See, the thing about hearing loss is it necessarily involves another person.
Well, that's it, and that's why when Paul got this call from this lady today, it was quite distressed.
Yeah.
And just, you know, had to call somebody just to have a friendly conversation with a warm, human, compassionate voice, and Paul is definitely that guy.
Yeah, I mean, contrast it to blindness. Blindness affects you, the person who has it.
That's
but hearing loss is a communication problem.
Right.
And so it's relationships, you know, break down over it. I mean, it's really, it's hearing is about speech.
And you know, the big thing that you just said, and our friend, by the way, is a notorious tightwad, but then I don't know it, and many of my friends and I, we're all just cheap old dudes. and so this doesn't help him at all. But wait a second. A hearing test. Hello. A hearing test is free.
Yes.
It doesn't cost you anything.
No.
So enough of that, oh, I couldn't possibly afford that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. It's nothing. You can afford nothing.
And hearing aids themselves can be gold, silver, or bronze. There's one for anybody.
Right.
There's hearing aids are all different price ranges depending on how many bells and whistles you're wanting.
Right.
Anybody today can afford hearing aids.
Right.
It really, when it comes down to it. I mean, people on fixed incomes, there's payment plans for hearing aids.
Right.
For heaven's sakes, where there's a will, there's a way.
And NextGen and Mainland Hearing Centers, I think, they've got a deal. And you and Mark, the boss, have talked about this many times. It's all about customer service and making sure that whatever you decided to acquire actually works for you. And it may not work the first day or the first couple of days. And you may have to come in once a week for 2 or 3 weeks until everything gets to be the way you want it.
We walk a walk with you. I mean, you don't just sell hearing aids to somebody.
Right.
Buy and in the trunk of your car and speed out of town by
sunset. Put this one in
sunset.
your left ear. That's not how it works anymore.
I mean, hearing aids had a bad rap in the 40s and 50s. I mean, people sold them out of hotel rooms. I mean, older people among us remember those days. It was bad. But there's a 90-day trial with hearing aids.
That's what I wanted you to get to.
You're not committed to paying finally until you know things are right.
Right.
In fact, the first 3 weeks, 21 days, and I'm not even the business person behind here. I know this from having worked at NextGen for the past year and a half. The first 3 weeks, you don't even plunk down a nickel. You just try the hearing aids for free.
Right.
You know, just go on out. And we see you every week and retwig and answer questions, and we program. They're all programmed on a computer.
Right.
To match your hearing loss. They don't just make sounds louder. Hearing aids are a prescription.
Right now, and there's the difference. There's the big difference between 2014 and certainly even 2004, let alone anything before 2000.
The technology has gone bonkers.
A hearing aid used to be a sound amplifier. All it was a microphone that boosted the volume of whatever sound you were trying to listen to.
And that happened a lot in the 1940s and early 50s, and then came transistors. As soon as you got transistors, you were able to do bass cut, treble cut. You were able to sort of sculpt and shape, but it was kind of very gross, very poor resolution. Now, I mean, hearing aids have channels and they've got programs, and you don't mess with that as a consumer, but the audiologist or hearing instrument practitioner knows what he or she's doing. And they set it up for you.
And for the business person on the run, they now integrate your tablets and your phones and your communications devices. They'll sync those up with your hearing aids so that everything is seamless.
A person wearing hearing aids can actually sometimes hear better than a normal hearing person will in noise, because the telephone will be streaming straight with Bluetooth straight to his hearing aids.
That's right.
So in a noisy place, he or she's just getting lots of sound and no noise.
And to my good friend and anyone else who's using the cheap old dude excuse, or dudette for that matter, excuse, sorry, it's just not holding any water here. A hearing test is free.
Check it out.
It costs $0. And for your own peace of mind, let alone anything else, it's a well-spent 45 minutes working with a very qualified professional.
Yeah, find out at least.
That's right. Now, you want some information about where to go? Well, check out the websites. Dr. Ted Venema is here representing Mainland Hearing and NextGen Hearing Centers across British Columbia. Mainland Hearing here in the Greater Vancouver area, mainlandhearing.com. Click on the website. You'll find out the location in Metro Vancouver close by to you. Also, if you're listening either up and down Vancouver Island, and Ted, you know well that we've got lots of CIL 650 listeners up and down the east coast of Vancouver Island. So NextGen Hearing Centers on the island. NextGen is NEXGEN hearing.com, and information there also about the centers up in the Okanagan. Have a look at the websites. We'll take this quick time out and back with more Boomer Life after this.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.